Hello and welcome. My name is Deb. I am a wife and mama to 4 beautiful children. My husband and I just started our full-time RV travel adventures. We also homeschool, and that sort of fits in perfectly for what we want to do with traveling and living in a camper. I am a former teacher. I taught for about 3.5 years. I have a dual certification in early childhood and special education, and I taught in both areas of my degree. But we are now homeschooling, and I just wanted to start this channel as a way to just kind of educate about different things in homeschooling, as well as to share ideas out with other homeschooling families who might just be looking for something that they could try out with their own family. And we also like to hear from other families as well, which is something that I learned when I do evaluations, because here in Pennsylvania, that is something that is part of the law, that you have to have an evaluation at the end of each school year. So it's fun for me to talk to families, because then I get a chance to learn some new things that I'm like, oh, maybe I could totally try this with my kids, that sort of thing. And that's a lot of fun. And I hope that I can serve you well with this channel and kind of share out what we do, or maybe ideas that we've been taught and I can share with other people, because that's what it's all about. When you're homeschooling, you're truly not alone. There's a huge community out there, and I just encourage you, if you are someone who feels like you're all alone, you don't really know what you're doing, maybe things just aren't quite working out for you, reach out. You can certainly message me. You can certainly, reach out to other people around you that you may know who are homeschooling, because guess what? We're all pretty open to ideas when it comes to homeschooling our children. So, aside from the introduction that I just touched on, I also wanted to talk a little bit about one of the first things you might take into consideration when you are beginning your homeschool journey. And that thing is, where are the lessons, or where is the learning going to take place in your home? Some of you probably have been on Pinterest, and that's okay. Pinterest is going to show you all these beautiful setups that you can do in your home for your learning space. Some of you do have big, beautiful homes, and you have the space to have those beautiful learning spots, and that's totally fine. I love seeing different spaces. In fact, a few of the families that I did evaluations for had these beautiful setups for their families, and I'm sitting there like, oh my word, I want to try that, and I want to try that. It was just so cool to see how they set up their space. But some of you don't quite have that room, and that's okay. Some of us just live in small spaces. Maybe you have an apartment, but you're like, I want to homeschool my children. And I also really like that setup of how they set up their learning area, but I just don't have the room. It's okay. Maybe you have a small house. We used to live in a small ranch house. And while we didn't necessarily have like a learning area, I often utilized our basement at first when we got started. I had toys for the younger kids to play with while I worked with my oldest, and that worked. We eventually moved up to our kitchen table, and you know what? That worked just as well too. So we didn't have a designated learning spot. We just kind of like made it work, where we had the ability to gather together as a family. Depending on how many kids I was working with at the time, we had the space and the ability for me to do that, but I didn't have a designated learning area, if that makes sense. So for those of you in the smaller spaces, it is totally okay to just use your kitchen table. In fact, as we get going with our adventures here in our travel lifestyle, there might be times that I am in a park teaching the kids. There might be times, where we're just sitting outside around the fire and we are just doing our learning. That's okay too. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have those Pinterest-worthy spaces. I just want to ease your mind with that. That is not a requirement when it comes to educating your children. What does matter is that you are providing them a wonderful education. And I know that each and every one of you can do that. Let me just show you where we do our learning.
So here is where we gather together to do lessons. I'm often sitting over here on this side of the table with one of the kids here in this seat, and then I might have another child over here on this bench seat working on their independent work while I'm teaching a lesson. But it works. We eat our meals here. Most times now, this time of the year, we might be outside eating because it's getting nicer, but we eat our meals here. We play games here. My son often builds his Legos here. This table is used for a lot of different things. And yeah, the candles are usually moved out of the way for more space, but it works, I just want you to know that if you have a small area to do your educating, it's okay. Don't sweat it if you don't have that beautiful spot.
So, I hope that I've eased your mind a little bit with how to set up a learning space, because it doesn't have to be complicated. If you want to have a beautiful, elegant space, that's okay. If you have the room for that, that is totally fine. If you don't have the room for that and you're kind of like us and you have a very small space that you're living in, the kitchen table can be used for so many things. If you need those written lessons, you utilize outside spaces. If you have a backyard that you can play in when it's nice, use that space, set up a little table or sit in the grass, something, and let some of your kids play while you work with another child. We often do that too. I hope that you'll follow along. I'm planning to share some more educational and organization videos. You can check out the link to my website below, thelittlewhistlerschoolhouse.com. You can give me a follow on Instagram, same name, The Little Whistler Schoolhouse, and check out our full-time RV page where you can see more of our adventures as we get started and journey on as a family of 6.